Sripada Sharanam Prapadhye, Chapter 41. The story of a pseudo sannyasi. Sripada gives Datta Diksha. He declares that he is Datta and his disappearance from Pithikapuram. Sri Bhaskara Shastri told us that Sripada Srivallabha is an embodiment of Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi, Mahakali, and Sri Rajarajeshwari. The feminine nature in Sripada can only be comprehended by the sadhakas who make a regular and disciplined worship. I heard that there are 4 stages of speech, namely Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhari. I asked Sri Bhaskara Shastri to give some explanation about them. Sri Bhaskara Shastri said, Goddess Ambika is expressed through every speech. She speaks through every person and speaks within every individual. The speech which is heard outside is called stula speech. Gross speech or actual speaking. The speech that is not heard outside but is within and can be perceived only in the lip movement is called madhyama. The speech that is subtler than madhyama is called vaikhari. The speech that stays in the throat and comes up to the mouth without coming out but remains in the midway and moves about in the mind is called Pashyanti. The speech that is still subtler and dwells in the navel only as an intention is called Para. Ambika is also worshipped as Tripura Bhairavi. She is the presiding mother of the 3 gunas, the 3 qualities of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. 3 worlds, the Trinity, and the 3 states of existence. She makes Triputi as her Tripura and rules over the 3 worlds. When we have devotion and make total self-submission and take complete refuge in her, no harm will be done to us even when we encounter hostility from this world or from invisible worlds. Hostile forces are not limited only to the physical world. We have states of existence such as states of the life force, of the physical plane and of the spiritual plane, which are related to the mental strata of the inner self. Accordingly, there are also different worlds. If we were to develop adequately, then we can live in those worlds just as we are living in the physical world. If a man wants to progress well, he should possess devotion and strong faith. Devotion means acceptance with complete faith. Confidence has to be gained through experience. We then must live on the basis of that confidence only. We should always have confidence that help will certainly come during times of need. If we have a sense of security along with confidence, then it becomes self-confidence. Knowledge without strength leads to inaction. Strength without knowledge becomes blind and leads to destruction. Therefore, we will need to get liberated from the bonds of nature through knowledge. Then we must attain perfection by the grace of Shakti. She is the primordial cosmic energy. Shakti must have the permission from knowledge. In the path of Sankhya, Chaitanya, consciousness is called as Purusha, male, and Prakriti, nature, is called as a female. In the lower planes, there is conflict between these two. Consciousness does not perform action. Nature has no knowledge. Creation occurs only when these two combine. They both have a handicap. If you look at consciousness, it is lame. If you look at nature, it is blind. To demonstrate that blindness and lameness exist in this world, a blind brother and a lame brother were born in the family in which Sripada was born. These births represent the fact that consciousness is lame and that nature is blind. At the higher planes, consciousness and nature are called Ishvara and Ishwari. At the higher planes, there is no conflict between these two. When Sripada thought that the proper time had come, he completely removed the lameness and blindness of his brothers. He had done this only as an indication of the grand program that will be undertaken by him for the eradication of this kind of lameness and blindness. In the transcendental state, the consciousness and nature are called Brahman and Maya. The inner meaning of his leaving the house during his 16th year and parting from the family and wandering about as an ascetic was to declare himself as Brahman and in the same way also as Maya, the Shakti that brings limitation to Brahman, who is unlimited and who has infinite attributes, is Maya. His birth in Pithikapuram indicates that in spite of being the boundless essential nature of Brahman, he worked within the limitations subjected by Maya. It was made clearly known that after 16 years he was not a prisoner of Maya anymore, and that he would be the limitless essential nature of Brahman. He is the highest essence who incarnated for the upliftment of the devotees. In the lower level, Prakriti, nature appears to be very strong. To illustrate this, many controversies, discussions, and difficulties brought about by nature in Pithikapuram are to be found in the biography of Sripada. Later in the middle plane, Purusha, the male, and Prakriti, nature, are equal. In this state, there were some non believers and people who created problems. Similarly, after having different experiences and having gained faith by that, there were people who recognized him as an incarnation. At the stage of leaving Pitikapuram, Maya remained merged in him. He very clearly declared that he was an incarnation of Parabrahman and then extensively displayed his avatar Leelas. Since the atmosphere in Pitikapuram was not suited for that, he left Pitikapuram. When his glory spreads all over the globe at some time in the coming centuries, according to his will, wisdom will also dawn on the residents of Pitikapuram in its complete express state. His divine power of consciousness will remove the lameness of human consciousness and the blindness of nature. When I asked Sri Bhaskara Shastri under which circumstances Sripada left Pitikapuram, he said, the divine Leelas of Sripada are beyond the imagination of common people. Once a sannyasi came to Kukuteshwara temple. He was a devotee of Datta. He offered to initiate people into Datta worship. He announced that if Datta Diksha was observed for 40 days, all wishes would be fulfilled. The Brahmin community in Pitikapuram also took the Datta Diksha. He received large amounts as dakshina. He gave some part of the collected amount to the Brahmins who took Diksha from him. The Brahmins told the people of other caste that they should also take Diksha from the sannyasi and give him generous donations to fulfill their lives. Unable to disregard the words of Brahmins, many people received Diksha and gave large amounts as dakshina to the sannyasi. In the meantime, discussions started whether everybody could take Datta Diksha. A combined meeting of the assemblies of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas was held. It was presided over by Sri Bapanarya. Sri Bapanarya remarked, Sri Datta belongs to all. All can take Diksha. Therefore, all the caste can receive Diksha from the sannyasi. The opportunity for taking Diksha should be given to all the people. The majority of the members in the assembly of Brahmins said, Sir, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas adhere to religious observance. Therefore, they can receive Diksha. Shudras are irreligious. Therefore, they should not receive Diksha. We can only accept dakshinas from them and uplift them with our power of penance. Then Sri Babanarya expressed his opinion saying, religious and irreligious people exist in all castes. It is difficult to decide who adheres to strict religious observances and who does not follow strict religious observances. Therefore, keeping the prosperity and welfare of the entire society in view, we can hold Datta Homa or other sacrifices, rituals, and programs and obtain welfare for the entire society. I feel that simply receiving dakshinas from Shudras and denying Diksha to Shudras is unjust. If we receive dakshinas and uplift Shudras with the power of our penance, we can similarly uplift the remaining Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya caste as well. If it were so, there is no need to give special dikshas to people of a particular caste. Not only that, a large amount was fixed as dakshina. Poor people exist in all castes. They cannot give such large amounts of dakshina. Poor people who labor to earn food will have to starve for many days after giving such heavy amounts of dakshina. Dakshina should be given voluntarily. That which is offered according to one's capacity and with pleasure should only be accepted as dakshina. Then only Datta will feel happy. The Brahmins raised an objection stating, even though we happen to be Brahmins, when that great Paramahamsa Parivrajaka, wandering ascetic, came to our village, we did not even welcome him with Purna Kumbha and Vedic mantras. Not only that, when he offered to give Datta Mandala Diksha for the welfare of all people, the assembly of Brahmins is displaying an indifferent attitude. It is really shameful. Then Sri Bapanarya said, if the visitor is really a Paramahamsa Parivrajaka, there are certain formalities to welcome him. A few days before his arrival, he should pass on the information about his visit through his main disciples to the Brahmin assembly here. Then the Brahmin assembly will take their complete details into account and will carry on discussions about Shastras with the main disciple. Thereby, the proficiency of the main disciple in Shastras will be known. Then the assembly will come to a conclusion and will decide if the disciples belong to a worthy Paramahamsa Parivrajaka. Afterwards, when the Paramahamsa Parivrajaka arrives, he will be accorded welcomed with the chanting of Vedic mantras and with Purna Kumbha. After that, discussion on scriptures will be carried on with him. Then, following his suggestion, Yajna, Yaga, Diksha, or discourse will be organized. Without any of these, the Paramahamsa Parivrajaka came to the Kukuteshwara temple. He immediately broached the subject of Datta Diksha with you. Did this not happen against our regulations? Sri Bapanarya questioned. The Brahmins replied, this is not the time to discuss whether regulations were violated. Will you and your son-in-law, Appalaraja Sharma, receive the Dikshas and give the Dakshinas? Sri Bapanarya answered, we too take to Dikshas for the collective welfare of all and not for our individual welfare. Since we are not taking Diksha from the sannyasi, we are not going to give dakshinas to him. If any of the Brahmins are prepared to take up Dikshas from the sannyasi and offer dakshinas to him, they are at liberty to do so. The Brahmin assembly will make decisions only about matters concerning collective problems and welfare and not about your personal Dikshas, problems and solutions. Sri Bapanarya affirmed decisively. Sri Shresti and Sri Varma also refused to receive Mandala Diksha from the ascetic. Nevertheless, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas were given the liberty to either take or not take Datta Mandala Diksha from the ascetic. Sripada gives Datta Diksha. There were some farmers who had devotion and care for Sripada. Among them, Venkaya was an important one. Sripada went to the house of Venkaya. He announced that he would give Datta Dikshas and no one should be disappointed that they were unable to take up Dikshas from the sannyasi. In addition to that, he declared that Dakshina can be offered according to one's own capacity. He also added that Mandala Diksha was not required in his case and that it will be sufficient if the Diksha was observed for one night. For one complete day and night, Sripada was in the house of Venkaya. Sripada gave Diksha to people of all 18 varieties of caste. Among those who took Dikshas, there were also some Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Sripada declares that he is Datta. This was the day when Sripada openly declared that he was Sri Datta. That day happened to be a Thursday, which was very dear to Lord Datta. He gave his auspicious blessings to all those who received Diksha and made them perform bhajan. He declared that he was Datta and that an elaborate program was waiting for him, and that as soon as devotees remember him, he will be pleased and will fulfill their desires. On the early morning of the next day, that is Friday, Sripada went to the house of Sri Narasimha Varma. There, Sripada was given a ceremonial anointment. He accepted only one banana and gave it to a cow in the house of Narasimha Varma. Afterwards, he came to the house of Sri Venkatappaya Sresti. There also the ceremonial anointment was performed for him. There he received butter, milk, and cream. He said that his devotees were calling him and that the time had come to leave Pithikapuram. Then he reached the house of his maternal grandfather Sri Bapanarya. There also he had the ceremonial anointment. He declared that he was verily Datta himself and that the form of Sripada Srivallabha was only a Maya form, that people suffering from troubles and patients tormented by diseases were calling him in agony, and that it was time to declare clearly that he was Datta and to commence the program of uplifting the world through his divine Leelas. After that, he reached his home. When the parents brought up the subject of his marriage, Sripada said humbly, "Mother, I have already given darshan along with Anagha Lakshmi many a time to grandfather, Sri Sresti and Sri Varma. Many people witnessed the divine couple with their leelas roaming in the fields of Sri Sresti, in the farms of Sri Varma, and in the mango groves. Look here, see my form combined with Anagha Lakshmi. Look at this divine, glorious, and auspicious form of mine. I told even at the time of my arrival in the guise of an avaduta that I would leave the house if the matter of my marriage was brought up. After giving the vision of that auspicious form, he touched his brothers. By the ambrosial looks of Sripada, the physical handicaps of his brothers were removed. Sumati Maharani and Appalaraja Sharma remained motionless. They were unable to speak anything. In the meantime, his maternal grandmother Rajamamba, maternal grandfather Sri Babanarya, Sri Venkatappaya Sresti, and his wife Venkata Subbamamba, Sri Narasimhavarma, and his wife Ammajamma came there. He spoke with all of them very cordially, smiling blissfully. Then Sumati Maharani remarked, "My dear one, you are saying that you are departing after repaying all debts. But the debts for milk from Sri Venkatappaya Sresti, Vatsavai Raja, and Malladi families cannot be redeemed by you. The disappearance of Sripada. Sripada said to his mother, "Mother, I am not denying what you say. As long as these three families do not forget me, I will not forget them. Even if they forget, I will remind them of me, even by coercing them. I will take their services and give them good results. I will take meals in someone's house belonging to your parents' family in every generation. However, I will not take dakshina. I know that your family will regard me with affection as their nephew. I will also respect this human relationship and behave like a dutiful nephew. What more do the family of your parents want?" Then turning to his father, he said, "In our Gandikota family, Vedas will remain for a very long time. Both my brothers will become good Vedic scholars. As long as the Gandikota family will not forget me, I will also not forget them." In one of his births, Sridhara Sharma will be born as a great person named Samardha Ramadas. Narsimha Varma will be born as Chhatrapati Shivaji at that time. Samardha Ramadas will act as the preceptor of Shivaji, and in this way the connection of priesthood between the two families will get well established. Ramaraja Sharma will take birth under the name Sridhara and will become a great yogi. By the lineage of disciples of Sridhara, a great samsthan in my name will be established in Pithikapuram. Our bond of indebtedness with Sri Venkatappaya Sresti will be strengthened. Not only that, but the Vatsavai family people will also come. Thus Sripada assured. The Savitri Panna was recited. Sripada regarded the Vedas as his life. While the recitation of the Vedas was happening, while all people there were watching, he disappeared. Sripada Rajam Sharanam Prapadhye.